time forth, and unto the ages.
Εις το όνομα του Πατρός και του Υιού και του Αγίου Πνεύματος. Αμήν. Please be seated. Καλημέρα σας. Good morning. Today, the gospel teaches us of how life can be in a state of fear or in a state of hope. That on one hand, there are many things that we must face in life that bring us to be afraid, to be fearful. And on the other end of this spectrum is a state where we are hopeful that anything is possible. No. The miracles occurring today, the two great miracles of healing of the daughter of Jairus and the woman of the flow of blood for 12 years, is a story of facing fear and delivering yourself to God's mercy. That both of these people, the father fearful of losing his only daughter, and the woman who had lived for 12 years with a terrible condition that she could not be healed from, that she had spent all of her money, all of her life, it said, was fixed on trying to cure herself for 12 years. Imagine living with fear for 12 years. And in that moment, when they approach Christ, they take that fear and they set it aside. And against all odds, on one hand, the ruler, Jairus, simply says to Jesus, "Jesus, I know my daughter is dying, but I believe that if you come, she will be healed." And the woman, knowing in her heart that if she only touched, it says, not even his cloak, but the tassel, the fringe, if she could even get one thread of his cloak, she would be healed. And so this begs the question for us. When we deal with sadness, with loss, with tragedy, with illness and sickness and injury and natural disasters and whatever else the world can throw at us, how do we respond? How much of our life is spent being afraid? And how much does our culture at times pile fear more and more and more? Be afraid. Be weak. Do not be courageous. Be gullible, controllable. When we're in a state of fear, are you able to live your life? Are you able to do those things that you know are good for your family, for yourself, for your church? See, fear has a way of paralyzing, of freezing us in our tracks, because there are so many things we could fear. How many of you think, wow, I don't even want to get in the car because I could get in an accident. I could go to the bank and a boulder could crush my head, right? We can have, when fear is running amok, it can take over. Now, the nuances for all of you, for the kids, it's pretty simple. Fear and courage. There are many kinds of fear. And I think it's a given that we will always have some form of fear. It's necessary. When the priest comes out with a chalice, he says, with fear of God. So there is a holy fear, and there is that fear which kills, which leads to death. And so our response is very important. You see, many times we think, I'm powerless. It's Him, it's God that does everything, and I'm just waiting. But the gospel today says, no, woman, your faith healed you. It was you. It was you who took the courage to stand here and reach for the hem, to face that fear. You see, that faith, that belief comes from you. It is self-generating. And we have the ability and the power to not only be afraid, but we have the power to face that fear. And that when we're afraid, it motivates us to do something, to get up, to work harder, to be active. And so, when we face any of that fear, which we will, let us remember today's example, that against all odds, whether we're losing someone or we're afraid for our own health, our own safety, we must hold fast. We must, with courage and strength and dignity, throw ourselves at God's mercy, knowing that anything and all things are possible. Amen.